Welcome back to the Cars and Resins YouTube channel. This week on NiS Guides 2022, we're talking about the preparation for the Daytona 500. This is week 0. And I kind of wanted to just talk about, what my expectations for this season are, kind of what goals I want to hit, and my preparation in the preseason, we'll call it. Getting ready to actually race in the season, and the first race for week 1, the Daytona 500. So I want to start with a little bit about me. I am a college student, and I got into NASCAR last year with the 2021 season. I followed it. I really kind of fell in love with it. It's great watching the strategy and the racing and the different things going on. And I wanted to kind of partake in it myself. I thought that would be really cool. So I started iRacing over last summer. And I did it while I was driving like the Miatas and different road cars. And then I got into stock car racing. I really like the stock car racing. And I started doing the normal just street stock rookies. And then I went into the ARCA series. And first race I did in ARCA was at Talladega, and I really loved trying to fight for position there and the pack racing, and I was like, wow, this is really great. Eventually after that, I kind of found out about the whole NiS series, which is the NASCAR iRacing series, which follows the real NASCAR season, and kind of it's either 100% the length of the NASCAR races or 50% depending on the week. And for instance, this upcoming week we have the Daytona 500, which is going to be a full-length race. I'm really excited for this season because it'll be hopefully my first season participating, and not just the first one and not the only one, but I'll continue in the future. Kind of my expectations for the season is I just want to go in there, get a lot of experience. I don't really have high goals for myself. I want to be able to participate in every race. It's going to be a lot of driving and a long time driving, because with the races being 100% the length of real life or 50%, it's going to be a long time sitting there. And I don't have a dedicated sim rig. I just have a steering wheel and pedals that I put on my desk. So dealing with the fatigue of driving that long is going to be something that is completely new to me. And I've been working on driving for longer periods of time. Like I've started practicing in the carburetor cup that iRacing has, and this week, or well, last week, it was at Talladega. So I was getting a lot of pack racing experience and trying to drive as much as I could just to get a feel for how it would be sitting in my chair for that long driving, and seeing how that would go. Now, speaking of practicing with the NASCAR Next Gen series, which I believe they did some changes from the car that I was racing at Talladega to the car that's going to be at Daytona, because NASCAR in real life has been messing with the rules. I don't know if you've been keeping up with that, but it's pretty interesting what they've been doing. So there's a lot of new things to learn also with these cars for people who have been racing before, with the next gen car specifically. Like now they went to sequential shifters, but it doesn't really feel like sequential shifters. You still have to lift to shift into the next gear, unlike something like I'm familiar with the Miatas that are on iRacing, where you can just flat foot shift with the sequential shifter. So it still feels a lot of like floating gears, which I was doing with the ARCA cars or the street stock cars. But that'll be interesting. Now, for the carburetor cup at Talladega, I was just using the default setup. They already had it at the lowest steering input setting, so you get the most accurate steering, which is normally what you want for like the super speedways, and you couldn't really change much else. So I just stuck with the default and was running that. Now, I did do pretty good in qualifying. My best time was a 54.162, and as you can see on the screen here, this is going to be going through a little bit of my best qualifying lap that I've done so far. So basically, on your qualifying lap at any super speedway, it's mostly the same thing. First thing, get up to speed as fast as possible. On your out lap, you're going to go stay up by the wall and just keep your foot planted. Now with these cars, because they do have a 5th gear, when you're running in traffic, you may want to shift into that 5th gear, but there's not enough power while you're by yourself to make sense to shift into that 5th gear. So you're just going to get into 4th, and you're going to put your foot to the floor and just go. So you're going around, you get that nice fast starting lap in, you cross the finish line. Now what you're going to do is you're going to try to stay in that middle lane, towards the top side, not that important, as you can see in the video here, and you're gonna get down right close to that yellow line through the turn. After the turn, nice and ease back out to the center and go along the straight there. The back straight's a good place where you're just gonna almost let go of the steering wheel. You wanna do very, very little inputs just to keep the car nice and straight down the road. The more inputs you do, the slower you're gonna go. So just let it go and just let it go fast. As you get to the end of the straight, I have the racing line on, as you can see in the video. I like to, once I hit the racing line, turn down with it, down to the yellow line. Same thing you did in turns 1 and 2, and follow it out, and then ease back out to the center, and it's just like a repeat of what we did coming off of 1 and 2 here. And you go for that little straight going into the tri-oval there, turn down, hit the yellow line, just touch it just barely and kind of ease out. As you can probably see in this video, I let go of the steering wheel right as I was about to cross the finish line, just to let it just go straight. You know, any input there just slows the car down any little bit. Especially at these super speedways, it doesn't make much sense to go for a second lap after you do your first lap qualifying. In the if you're below 54.2 seconds and on your first lap, just let it go. It doesn't make much sense to run a second one. You're not going to be able to get any faster. If you're above 54.3, try that second lap. The fastest I've ever gotten on a second lap was, I think, a 54.22. So you can still gain position there, but if you're below that, it doesn't really make much sense to do another lap. The fastest I've seen for that qualifying run was, I saw a 54.12. Not sure where they got that extra 0.05 of a second from, but if you can find them, that's great. Let us know down in the comments how you did it. So for the actual race, starting in second is not where you want to be. It kind of sucks because you have to be able to, at least for me, I only have one monitor and it's just a small 24-inch monitor. So you have to be able to look at the first place car, so you make sure you're not passing them. You can jump on the start when they jump on the start. And it's a hard place to be. I've been turned because I was watching forward and trying to watch left at the same time. And the guy who was behind me in fourth place, when they saw the guy in first jump on the start, just pushed me out of the way, and it was not a good time. Best place to start is either first or third or anywhere back. Kind of as you go back, obviously, there's less that you can do. When you do start, as you can see, I'll have a video up here of me in one of my third place starts. You just want to stay right behind that guy who's in first place and just push them. Or if you're in fourth or behind, just whoever's in front of you, just get up right behind them and just keep, shifting through the gears, getting right up behind them, pushing them around that first lap. Best thing you can do here is just get right behind them, and you just want to try to make space, because if the people behind you are slow on their shifts or slow on the start, you can get a little bit of separation there, which can give you a huge advantage later down the road, especially if there's a wreck or something, and if you're out front of that, you won't have any problems. Going through the race is kind of simple. You're just staying in the pack. Don't make big moves, because the bigger move you make, the more likely you are to get wrecked out. It's a fact. It's a fact of life in oval racing. You can see here where there's just a lot of things going on in the oval race. This one, I was in first place at this time, and I have a couple people behind me, and there's a back marker that is doing something. Who knows what they're doing? And they shoot up the track, and you got to look way ahead and just make sure that you're not gonna get hit, because I almost got hit here, and some people behind me got hit. So I was lucky to make that through with the guy who was in second place, and I think a couple other people made it through as well, but not as fast as we did. And it's oval racing, so Robin's racing. And in this race in particular, after we made through there, we did a lot of laps together. The people who were behind me were really good about, we were just pushing for time, weren't fighting. I came around to the last lap. So last lap, everybody's going to try to make a move so that they can get as good as possible. And what happened here is we were fighting in the pack. Somebody got a little loose or something and got upset, and they hit somebody, and then they were coming back down the track. And I was staying low, trying to avoid an accident. And the guy came sliding down the track and hit me in the side and spun me out. And the biggest thing I can say about that is you just want to finish the race. Especially if it's the last lap, all you have to do is cross that start-finish line. And you might pass, you're not going to be in as good a position as when you got hit, but you still might beat somebody who was on the same lap as you, who also got wrecked from somebody else. So just stay in the car, even if you have a meatball flag, and just go and finish. Don't pit for repairs, because you'll be able to cross that start-finish line before they disqualify you for that. So just drive, get past the start-finish line, and then you can park the car and recover it. If you get wrecked any other time in the race, try to drive back to the pits if you can, because it does save you time over towing. But if your car is too damaged, just tow it, because it's going to save you hopefully wrecking somebody else in the race. You don't want to ever do that. So in conclusion, you know, these next gen cars handle really great, especially bump drafting, compared to, I was driving ARCA cars, and people would like to get right up behind you, and with those, because the way the nose is shaped and the way the rear, the end of the car is, if they got a little too close, once they touch you, you're just done. You can't do anything about it. These cars, you can hit pretty hard, and, you know, give somebody a shove and have both of you really speed up, which is really nice, especially considering, you know, you're driving with people online who aren't going to necessarily care whether or not you get wrecked out. So having a little bit of safety there is very nice. The side drafting there's a lot of side drafting in this. You can get out from behind somebody and kind of hold with them still, and even slingshot yourself, especially if there's nobody behind them, even though you don't have anybody behind you. And it's going to make for a really interesting race of the Daytona 500 because of the mobility it gives you. You're not just going to get out into the dead air and just stall and just get stuck to the back. If you can keep your car near their rear quarter, you can suck yourself forward and get ahead of them. The sequential gearbox, I talked a little bit about it before. It doesn't really feel like a sequential gearbox to me. It still feels a lot like the floating shifts in like the ARCA cars, but having that fifth gear is going to make things very interesting. A lot of time, if you're by yourself, the max you're going to be able to get is fourth gear, at least on super speedways, but having that fifth gear when you're in a pack drafting is a huge advantage. And you know, we'll only see the whole thing about that when we're actually racing at the Daytona 500 with real cars. It'll be really interesting. Same thing in the sim. You know, especially people who don't think about that fifth gear, because I have had, at least at the beginning of the at Talladega, there's a lot of people who you just pass them, you're like, why are you going so slow? You don't have any damage or anything. And now after time you realize, oh wait, they're just in fourth gear, they never, you know, went into fifth gear. Next week we have the Daytona 500. I've started practicing for that a little bit. Today is Tuesday, so the race is actually tomorrow. I do a lot of practicing tonight, and then tomorrow before the race, hopefully I can find a practice session with a lot of people in it so I can get some practice actually drafting on that track, though it shouldn't be that much different from Talladega. Basically my goal, I just want to finish that race. I'm not too concerned about where I finish. I want to try to not get wrecked out. That's going to be the big thing. I want to try to play it safe. Pit strategy is going to be interesting because I don't have a spotter or a crew chief or somebody to help me configure the pit stops when I go. So I'll have to hopefully play it by ear and be able to pick out what I'm going to do and stay on top of it and keep up with the leaders. Again, I'm just getting into this, so I wouldn't be upset, you know, if I, you know, fall back. My biggest goal is I just want to finish this race, you know, finish without getting wrecked out. So we'll see how that goes. And it's going to be a long season. It'll be very interesting. Speaking of the season, I'm really excited for it. I'm hoping to do every single race this year. I mean, maybe I won't be able to do one or two, but I'm hoping that I'll have the opportunity to at least try to do most of them. I'm going to probably do mostly fixed races just because I don't have the time to work on the setups for the open races, but maybe I'll try to do one or two open races, and we'll see how I can get those setups to work. Well, and thank you for watching. If you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. And if you made it this far into the video, please like and subscribe. Thank you.